Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position.
You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
Your skin grows cold from your first glimpse of the enormous beast.
It's a product of your imagination.
Survival depends on a quick, decisive move.
Your choices are limited.
Stand and fight, or run.
Use your lightning bolt.
Victory is yours.
Win the treasure.
TSR Hobbies.
Dungeons and Dragons games.
Products of your imagination.
Good morning and welcome to the dungeon. This is still only 35 cents. You're watching the Merry Monday Mailcall Show. Special one for you today. Not comics, but a role-playing game special with a whole bunch of different role-playing games and packs that I've picked up recently. I wanted to share it with you all because I know some of you love your D&D and your role-playing games, so I thought I'd share it with you today. I'm wearing my Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt that I picked up about a year ago at, I think it was Heroes, probably. But yeah, loving being able to talk to you about Dungeons and Dragons and all of the role-playing goodness. I know that some of you have been looking forward to this. Let's start by going to the chat and seeing who's here today to join us. We have Vincent. How are you, Vincent? It's really good to see you. As always, we have JSS Brooklyn. Always a pleasure. Thank you for the message on this. Looking forward to sharing this with you. Supermod, Christina Payne. Thank you for joining, Christina. It is always a pleasure. And that's us up to date on the chat. So maybe I will switch. Now, before we get started, give you a bit of background on what happened and how I managed to pick these up and what set it off. So, as I say, I love my comics, but equally, I used to play role-playing games when I was a wee nipper, and yeah, just going back and saw that these were similar to comics, getting a lot of interest. Obviously, the nostalgia wave has hit hard with these role-playing games, so I've been picking them up over the years. But I recently came across a lot in the UK, which was a auction house that was running this set of games that essentially had been he was a salesperson for Games Workshop, which is it's a company over there that was essentially hired to or paid for the license to distribute 2000 AD. I've got 2000 AD on the brain. I've been going through my recent haul of those as well, so excuse me if I keep saying 2000 AD. But yes, these are a whole bunch of role-playing games that this guy had in his essentially just in his storage. So he used to be the rep for Games Workshop, and so had a whole host of these unopened brand new role-playing games, and they came up for auction, and there was a whole bunch of modules which I bid on but didn't get. They were getting very pricey, the modules, but there was a whole bunch of unopened, mostly sealed role-playing games in their original boxes. And so I put a few sneaky bids on them, and you'll see those as we go through shortly. Quite the haul, to be honest. I was like, I really wanted to get this. I've been collecting them for a while, and I've got some to show you the insides as well. But yeah, these were, as I say, all brand new. I'm still debating what I'm going to do with them. Some of them will go on display and kept. I think the value on these is just going to keep going up and up. So not in any major rush to sort of flick some of them on. Some of my undercopies I will be selling. But these are so good that I want to keep them for posterity. And I've noticed that they're starting to sell a lot of them on Heritage as well. So it's an interesting one. If you haven't got back into D&D, and especially the vintage sets, I'd urge you to have a look. They are getting quite pricey now because people have sort of, again, as usual, cottoned on. And as I say, they're running a number of auctions now across most of the sites. And as I say, Heritage have a regular one every 6 months, I believe. So I'm looking forward to the next one of those. Let's go back to the comments. Christina, D&D, my kids love playing it. It's one of those perennial favorites. I know that the new series by Wizards of the Coast is pretty good. I do have that as well, but I haven't been playing. So one of the things I'd love to do is see if we can get some of our YouTube community getting up and doing it. We've got Second Best Bob here too. Good evening from England. I've just got back from there. As I say, if I was over there last week, you would have seen the stream where I presented a couple of the games from there. But yeah, I'm finally over my jet lag. I can show my face. If you'd have seen me the last 2 days, I was pretty rough. But yeah, all back home, safe and well. So happy to be here. And as mentioned, there's a link at the top of the chat. If anyone wants to drop in and chat D&D as we're going through it, I'd be more than welcome to have you on the show. So maybe with that, we will switch to the old favorite camera above the head malarkey. Let's see if I can add that in. Let's switch modes to that one and then that one. Oh no, that one. And we move that to there, and there we have it. All right, so let's get this show started, shall we? Now, I'm trying to think so let's start with what I showed last week. So you get so this is not Dungeons and Dragons. And as you would have seen last week, this is the original set of Traveller. Now, this was a science fiction role-playing game. I played a couple of games of this back in the day. This science fiction in the far future, I recently saw Balthazar do a video on his collection as well, which this inspired him to pull his out. But this, as you can see, this gives you a sense of the quality of these items. There's a slight tear on here in terms of the plastic, but the box is in absolutely beautiful condition, as you can see. So again, this is the sort of quality that you got with these games. So box set, and in here there's 3 books, is my understanding. Not going to crack this open. For that simple reason that you don't get these sealed very often. So that's Traveller. Now, Traveller was done by Games Designers Workshop. So that was that. And there were these little tiny books. And then later they released this updated version, which is the more traditional box size that you see for role-playing games. Most of them came in these beautiful little boxes. And as I say, this is, again, the shrink wrap's a little bit worse for wear, but the box itself, apart from this little corner here, is in pretty good shape. And as you can see, the artwork on this one is much better. These were very, very plain, and I always struggled to sort of find how the system at Traveller worked, because it was very much bland, boring covers on the first edition. And then they did update it. But it was always a very complex rule set. And then again, I think TSR did a version. I can't remember the name of the TSR version one. But this is, as I say, great to be able to pick this up. The starter edition 251, take a science fiction odyssey to the distant worlds of the galaxy. And again, as usual, you can play as a multitude of different character types. And this is pre any of the sort of Star Wars games that you would see. But the package in here contains 2 booklets totaling 96 pages of rules, descriptions, information, and adventure material, a 2-sided map, and 2 dice. These abridged rules are compatible with GDW's, or Games Designers Workshop, complete line of more than 30 Traveller adventure booklets, hardcover books, box sets. And I love this here. For 3 or more players and a referee, ages 12 and up, players must supply pencil and paper. So there's your Traveller. As I say, this one is a little bit of a nostalgia feel for me. I haven't been able to play this recently, but it is a great set to pick up and have in the collection. So that's my Traveller set. Again, it inspired Bell to do a video himself on his Traveller sets. I think he got some of the later ones. But yeah, it again, one of these great things to be able to have in the collection. So who have we got? Himat loves comics. I have all versions of D&D up to the 5th and Pathfinder as well. Wow. I'm not as dedicated as that. I think I've got the first and second editions and the fifth edition. For those that don't know, Pathfinder, I think, and keep me honest here, Matt, it's I think the Pathfinder was when I don't think Wizards of the Coast had it, or it was a breakaway team that went and published it, and it's not true D&D in the license sense, but it is essentially uses the same rules. Who else do we have in the chat? Let me just see. So I think we've got Matt. We've got Second Minute Bob saying, never played a role-playing game either. I have played them. I just haven't played them more recently. I love to get back into it, as I say. I've been trying to get, I think, what's on the comic rack, Mr. Aiken is a seasoned dungeon master or game master, and I keep trying to needle him via the live streams to see if we can get a live game done with Marvel Superheroes, which is another one of my favorite role-playing games. And yes, you're absolutely right, John. Gamma World was the TSR version. Had some great art on the front of that, and JSS actually reminded me of this prior to the stream, that a lot of the art on these is absolutely stunning, as you can see on this traveler box here. But vast majority of this art has been lost or destroyed because no one saw any value to it. So again, that's another thing that I've seen come up from heritage auctions. They had some original art in there over the years. What I do want to show you as well, and I think I shared this last week, but it's worth sharing again, is this. Now, this I'm teasing you on what you'll have to wait for the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, because that is probably the culmination of it. But this is very worth sharing with you all. This is Warhammer First Edition. Very, very rare thing to find in any condition. But this is, as you can see, completely sealed, absolutely mint in box, first edition of Warhammer. So this was created essentially to sell Citadel miniatures, which was what Games Workshop used to be known for, and they had the rights to distribute Dungeons and Dragons. So that they used Dungeons and Dragons to help them sell their miniatures, but then they created Warhammer to essentially amplify that up. So this game was essentially created to sell miniatures and has gone on to be this massive, massive monster of a product. I've seen on some of the role-playing chats out there that this there is a Warhammer or Games Workshop museum, and they were saying that even there they don't have a copy as minty as that. So this is something I'm very happy to have in the collection, and as I say, quite the rare piece, especially in that condition. Let's get back to the chat and see what's going on. So you can always point to the 5.3 exhibition in Barrier Peaks as a bridge to Gamma World. Interesting. And then Pathfinder was a version of 3. Here we go. This Matt, I knew Matt would have the info. So Pathfinder was a version of 3.5 done as a breakaway under the open game license that became popular, as most people didn't like 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Interesting. I knew there was some form of breakaway, and now you've reminded me about the open game license, which I believe there was some controversy about that as well recently, where I think Wizards of the Coast were doing a little bit of messing around with the license for the open game license. And essentially, if you created something, the story was that they would own the IP, even if it was your own. So, not sure where that landed. I'm sure Matt will give me a heads up if in the chat as we go through. And then Matt, the new vice president, is an avid Pathfinder player. Well, there you go. If ever I needed someone to give the info in the chat, it's Matt as we go. So, I'm quite surprised at how many of you actually have fond memories of these role-playing games. So it's great to sort of see everyone coming out of the woodwork. And again, it is one of those ones where it is a massive crossover with our hobby. So I thought this one would be good. So let's start with the books, shall we? So I managed to get these as well. Now, these were minty fresh. I'll remove some of this so we can have a better look. This is the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and you would recognize it from my t-shirt. This is the Player's Handbook, and as you can see, this is basically untouched stock that came from this guy's collection. Beautiful condition, and as you can see here, it's never been touched. It's got some minor little sort of staining that you would expect on it, but it's the first edition of. So this is the 6th printing, in January 1980. So as you can see here, it's in immaculate condition, and I just love the small typeface. You could spend hours and hours going through this, and love the illustrations throughout. So it's great to be able to pick this up again. So that's the Player's Handbook, and it wouldn't be complete without having the hefty tome that is the Dungeon Master's Guide as well. So these two went together so you could play your game. Very detailed Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll come to the basic set very soon. This is the revised edition, printed in the USA, December 1979. So this is from 1979. And as you can see here, more of the same, absolutely minty fresh. Look at those great illustrations throughout. So I think I already have undercopies of this, so I may end up now selling my other copies of this. But that's the Dungeon Master's Guide, and as you can see, beautifully illustrated on the front and back cover. So happy to have both of those. But then on top of that, was able to pick up a copy of Fiend Folio. And again, this one is essentially tomb creatures. So I don't have the monster manual, unfortunately, but this was essentially a follow-up to the monster manual. So a whole host of different creatures throughout, and I love these monster manuals where you'd get these great illustrations alongside the monsters. I'm a big fan of things like the official handbook to the Marvel Universe, with all these stats and the creatures beside them. So this is the perfect form for me. I think maybe the monster manual actually inspired the Marvel handbook, to be honest, because up until this point, I don't think they've been doing anything like this in Marvel. So it's nice to see. I would more be unsurprised if this type of thing was not an inspiration for that sort of book. But as you can see, the illustrations are fantastic within. And I think that's one of the things that I love about these as well is, even without playing the games, these really are a great snapshot of wonderful illustrations. And that's the thing that I really liked about, really set your imagination off. But yeah, that's the Fiend Folio. And again, great, beautiful cover on the back to go with it. Let's just see what printing this one is. I think this might be the first print because it doesn't actually have any indicia on there. So yeah, again, great to have. The next one in the hardbacks, brand spanking new, as you can see, is Deities and Demigods. Now, this one has a bit of history, and I'm sure JSS, who's in the chat, will be able to help us out with this. Let me just have a look. So this is one of the most famous of the advanced D&D books because it had a number of different printings. And in the original printings, they had two sets of gods that were featured that were invariably removed because they lost the license or they didn't ask permission. So I think there is, from memory, and John, keep me honest here, please. This version is, I think, the fourth printing. You'll notice the first and second printings are the ones you want to be looking for. This is the 127 page version, which is the later printings. Now I'm trying to see if they have the note. Yes, here we go. At the bottom, there's a little thanks here. Special thanks given to Chaosism Inc. for permission to use the material for the Cthulhu mythos and the Melnibonian mythos. So the Elric stuff. So originally, this book featured Call of Cthulhu gods and Elric. I never remember the name. Melnibonian mythos characters, but they ultimately were pulled, and then later editions had to keep that thank you inside. So originally, it would have had a list of those gods in there as well. But again, same sort of thing. You can go through and see all of these heroes, characters, gods from different mythos. While we're here, let's have a look. I particularly always liked to look at the Norse mythos because obviously loving Marvel. Let's just see if we can find the Norse set. Here we go. So you've got Odin, Allfather there. Who else do we have? Balder, the Fenris Wolf, Heimdall on his bridge there, Freya, Frigga, Hel, Loki, interesting looking Loki there, you can see. But what we've all come to see is this stunning piece of Thor, God of Thunder. Not only do you get his character set and Mjolnir there, you get this beautiful piece of art featuring Thor defeating a dragon. So yes, super happy to pick this one up, even if it is not the one that features the full set of the gods in there. JSS Brooklyn, yes sir, 2 publications. That's right. I think this is one of those that, as I say, I was hoping that this one would be the original editions, but nevertheless, just beautiful to have all of these to add to the collection. And they'll be going and taking pride of place on the shelf. And I'll keep them. I'll just use PDFs rather than actually crack these open. But yeah, fabulous to have those. In addition, I think this is the second edition, is my understanding. This is the basic set of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this one is not sealed. I wanted to bring this one out to show you because this is actually not one that I picked up at the auction house, but give you a sense of what the early editions of 2000 AD of Dungeons and Dragons look like. This is, my understanding is this is from the 1979 set. And what's interesting for this one is that this is one of the sets where they had a dice shortage. And so instead of like putting dices in because they couldn't get them, they had this little piece of paper which basically you could cut up and use as dice. As you can see here, this person has very, very kindly not destroyed this, not cut it open. And so I'm very happy to have this complete set. Comes with the obligatory Keep on the Borderlands module, which came later on with the sets. And as you can see here, beautiful artwork and stunning condition as well. So just really happy to have that with the map inside as well. I'm not sure if there's any more inserts, but as you can see, these are beautiful condition. And the rule book itself, let's just move this. Don't want to damage it. The rule book itself, first edition set. So 1974, 1978, 1978. This is the third edition from December 1979. And here, all of the rules that you would need to get in to play the game. So not a lot of pictures in this first edition, but nonetheless, all the rules that you would need to play. And some of the illustrations were not up to par in these early editions. But obviously, as the game became more successful, you were able, or they were able to commission more and more work for the game. So that's that early one. But what I was able to pick up is this, which is the classic set that I always remember prior to the beautiful red set. This is essentially beautifully presented, all completely sealed. This is the basic set, basic rule set. Again, it comes with, this time it comes with the basic set. It's got the classic rules booklet, and it's got the Keep on the Borderlands module, and the dice and the crayon as well. And as you can see here, TSR Games. But just so happy, and you can hear the dice rolling around in there. So happy to pick this up. Beautiful, beautiful set here. And then again, this is take pride of place. I do have another one to share with you to show you what's inside. But I also got the expert set to go alongside it, which again is sealed in beautiful condition the day it was made and put on the shelf. Stop. Read this before purchase. This product does not stand alone. It has been designed to be used with the Dungeons & Dragons basic rulebook. It cannot be used by itself. If you do not own Dungeons & Dragons basic rulebook, you will not be able to use this book or play the game. So there you go. A bit of a warning there. So I have to have both of them, and this is why I'm super happy to pick them up. But just love the artwork and the color scheme on these. And as you can see here, it's got a little bit dirty still from being in that storage all the time, but it's in beautiful condition, as I say, with the shrink wrap. Not going to complain about that. See what JSS has to say. So typically with the sets and the modules, the lower left logo and the publication table on the other modules was listed on the back. That's always a good publication marker. This is why we have JSS in the chat, because he is a font of knowledge on all things, and including comics as well as role-playing games. So good to see. Let's see what John has to say here. See, the newer boxes had the printed text on the back box copy. Could you explain, John? Because I'm confused. What am I looking for on the back of these that I should know about? It would be good to understand. So is it this piece here, the 1974, 1977, 1978, 1981? I'm assuming that's what you're talking about in terms of recognizing when these were produced. 1981 would suggest this is the 1981 set. But yeah, let me know in the chat, my friend. Now let's go back up here. Yes, pull back the red set. Which red set? Not sure what you mean. Well, I'm sure I'll find out at some point. You'll reach out and we'll go through maybe again. So there you go. Dungeons and Dragons, the full basic and expert set, boxed, brand new. Really happy to have those. Not sure what any of these are actually worth. I was just feeling that I needed to get them. What I do have though is an opened version, which I bought a few years back as well. And let's see which ones this one is. So that's the 19. This is probably what John's talking about. So let's compare. So there you go. The red on the back versus this earlier version, which I also own. So this is 1980. So this is the 1980 set, I believe, and this is the 1981 set. So hopefully that's what you're talking about, John. It appears as well, and I've noticed this on a couple of them, that you can tell as well that they have the box. You have to flip the box when it was brand new, and then I think everyone sort of puts them this way around when they open them. But this is what you would get inside, and I'm also lucky that this one, although it's not sealed, this still has the sealed dice or die and the crayon inside. And again, beautiful looking copy. So this is what you'd get. In this one, you get the module, the Isle of Dread. And again, beautiful condition. Great to pick that up. It's even still got the TSR gift certificate mailer to send in as well. And so you'd have your expert rules, which, warning, you can't play unless you've got the basic set. But yeah, really happy to have these in the collection. I'm not sure now, knowing what John's described, whether or not I was thinking of selling this one, given that I'd got this version. But who knows? I might end up keeping both now to go alongside each other. But again, you can see this one is in very, very good shape as well. I picked this up a few years back, very cheaply. So super happy to pick that up. For those, this is probably why I've got 2000 AD on the brain. Picked up this Judge Dredd role-playing game as well. Again, immaculate, still in its seal. I haven't opened it up. You can hear the stuff rolling around. This great Brian Boland cover or art on the back. And this is the full complete set in mint condition. So that's going on the shelf, going to be stored. But this is what that game looked like opened, because I did pick this up a few months back as well, and so I thought it would be good to crack open this copy so you can see what's inside. So you get, I don't think there's any dice in this one, it's just the books, but you get this fabulous judge's manual with all this fabulous art from 2000 AD. And I always liked the Judge Dredd role-playing game. Played a couple of games of this. Very interesting. I wasn't sure, not seen any scenarios or modules that went with this. But I did pick up recently a copy of White Dwarf, which had the Judge Dredd game in it. I think it did feature a small scenario within. But as you can see here, the great news for Judge Dredd is they could put a whole bunch of art in here from the comic books. But a really useful, again, really good in terms of reading this just from a history standpoint, because it does do a good job of giving you a guide to the whole 2000 AD Mega City 1 Judge Dredd history, so that actually you could play the game. And then there's a glossary of Mega City slang, artifacts, extensive and addictive serum prepared for corpses of Stookies. But yeah, again, great to be able to have that. And then you'd have the Game Master book, again, beautifully illustrated. And this is not in bad condition, so this is potentially going to go up for sale at some point. But yeah, happy to share with you what comes in these books. So this is the thing. I really love these, because you can sit down and just read through and absorb all of the characters, all of the history. And there's Judge Death and the Dark Judges there. Look at that. And then on top of that, all the maps and everything are in here. This one has been cut. So you can see here some of the characters have been cut out. But you do get, yeah, so as you can see, this full sheet of characters, they've cut some of them up already. So you could use that on the map. And there's a whole bunch of judges for you there as well. But as I say, I've shown this one before, but wanted to crack it open again, give you a sense of what you'd find inside these boxes. So that's it for this week. Let me just bring back up probably the one that everyone wants to see. Beautiful Dungeons and Dragons. So I will hopefully at some point get to play some of these again with some of you out there, but I wanted to share with them. Hopefully you enjoyed a brief look at all of this sort of 2000 AD paraphernalia. We'll be back to comics next week. Oh, I think my camera may have died. let's just do that. If you can still hear me, there you go. I'm back. Well, maybe I'm not back. But yes, camera's died, so I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed this little brief jog down memory lane for all of you role-playing fans as well as comic lovers. With that, we will shut the stream down. But thank you very much for joining all of you out there. And I'll see you very, very soon.